Good morning and welcome to Liverpool Transfer Daily here on the Blood Red channel and from Liverpool.com to myself, Guy Clarke, joined by David Lynch this morning to talk about the unveiling of Darwin Nunez as a Liverpool player. The deal from Benfica finally completed last night. He signed a 6-year deal at Anfield as expected, Dave, and he's come out immediately saying the reason he's at Liverpool is to win trophies.
Yeah, bit of a statement of intent, which is, I think all fans would like to hear that sort of thing. The obviously a player who's got some confidence in himself, and I think it sort of speaks to the idea as well that, there were other clubs sniffing around him, and most notably Manchester United, but I think he looked at Liverpool at the moment and they looked at a far safer bet if you're a player who wants to try and win trophies. And, apparently competing in the Champions League was a big part of the appeal as well. And Liverpool pretty much at the moment under Jurgen Klopp guarantee that, which, you think a few years back when he came in, that was far from the case. It shows really how far they've come, that they're now considered a guaranteed Champions League qualifying and also to challenge for trophies going forward. So yeah, it's worked out really well for Liverpool now that they've got that big appeal and they can get in these, really exciting young players, probably, one of the best young strikers operating in Europe at the moment.
How big a statement do you think it is, the fact that this is... All right, it's the second signing of the summer off Fabio Carvalho, a deal that was looked to be done in January. But if you take the last three deals of Diaz, Carvalho and Nunez, how big a statement is it about kind of the future of Liverpool? And under Jurgen Klopp, off the back of signing that new contract, that really now this is the next wave for Liverpool to really consolidate, as you say, not only being a Champions League regular, but continually pushing Manchester City for that league title?
Yeah, it's exciting really, because I think, the worry was always that, Jurgen Klopp had built sort of that first great team, hadn't he, that had taken them on the journey from, he'd slowly built them over the course of going from challenging for the top four and getting back into the Champions League and then building it up to challenging for trophies, and then obviously completed the set in terms of that last season. But it was always a question mark of, some of these players are getting on a bit. Some players are moving on. We already lost, for example, Gini Wijnaldum, who was a big part of some of those successes. And the big question was, could he start building his next great team? And obviously the big steps have been taken towards doing that in the last couple of summers. You think Jota's going to have a big career at Liverpool and be here for a while now as well. And Diaz obviously has hit the ground running, and Nunez is the next step of that. And those players have sort of, as it's slowly evolved, have had a big impact. And you hope that Darwin Nunez can do the same. But it's Liverpool looking to future-proof, and in terms of the success they've had in terms of previous signings, it makes you think that, it gives you great confidence that the next one's going to be great as well. And you think with Nunez coming in now, he can be Liverpool's next top striker for the next 6, 7, 8 years, maybe longer than that, if he wants to stick around. And that's a really exciting thought for fans.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Looking in the chat box, a number of fans welcoming Darwin Nunez to Liverpool. And most definitely an exciting addition to the forward line as well, Dave, which I suppose with Diaz coming in, with Diogo Jota already there. And Darwin Nunez, in his first interview, spoke about the likes of Roberto Firmino as well, about Mohamed Salah. He's taken on Divock Origi's old squad number. I mean, it looks as though not only is it future-proofing, like you say, but maybe also subtly tweaking the way in which Liverpool attack. Roberto Firmino, I think, one prime example that for so long people have said, how do you replace Roberto Firmino? Well, the answer probably is you don't go like for like, because you're only going to end up with a second-rate option. Instead, Liverpool look like they've changed the model.
Yeah, that seemed like a bit of a headache really coming down the road for Klopp, is trying to find someone else who was like Roberto Firmino, because as you say, such an unusual player really, that I know there are a few false nines out there, but there aren't a lot that play it in that particular way that Firmino does and has done for Liverpool during all the successes in recent years. So replacing him with a bit of a nightmare really. So it's interesting that you've gone down something, down the route of going for a more orthodox number 9 really in Nunez, from what I've seen of him. And it makes you wonder whether that signals a shift in sort of approach. Does it mean a change of formation when he's starting up there? Because the whole point really of having Firmino playing in the way he did was to have Sadio Mane and Salah running up and then becoming effectively the centre forwards, and that's how they got all the goals. So if you go for a more out and out number 9, he's going to expect to score goals. He's going to be asked to score more goals. He's going to be in those positions that sometimes Salah takes up. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. Does that lead to a slight change in formation. It'd be, we'll get our first glimpse, I suppose, in pre-season about how Klopp goes about working that out.
Yeah, and I suppose now that there's, 3 forward options that have come in kind of less than 2 years in Jota, Diaz, and now Nunez, that actually maybe that could be the front three. And thinking of Diogo Jota, and is a point that's been mentioned on a couple of podcasts that we have done over the last few days, that actually Darwin Nunez could help unlock Diogo Jota. Even we've seen him off the left, we've seen him through the middle, but off the right was where he played a lot of his football for Wolves, and a lot of that was in partnership with someone like Raul Jimenez. And all of a sudden, as you say, there might still be 2 chief goal getters in that front three. It might not just be the wide players, and Jota actually in a slightly different role to what Salah occupies right now, if Salah's not to extend his deal, could perhaps be unlocked on that right-hand side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it sort of gives you a different way of approaching that attacking play, but also, I think it's something Jurgen Klopp has done before with Robert Lewandowski when he had him at Dortmund. He's sort of solved that puzzle before of getting both the wingers and the centre forward scoring, maybe the wingers at slightly lesser rate than he's done with Mo Salah and Sadio Mane in recent years. But it's something he's done before, and I think it's quite exciting, as you say, for Jota. Can that help unlock his potential a little bit? I think he would admit that back end of last season sort of lost his way a little bit, wasn't quite the electric form we've been used to. And also for Mo Salah, if he does stick around, I think I'm right in saying he played with Dzeko at Roma, and they had quite a nice partnership. So, it's something he's done before, and it also gives you that option as well to go to a sort of a 4-2-3-1, which I mentioned Lewandowski. That was the sort of formation that Jurgen Klopp preferred when he used him at Dortmund. So, is that the way he goes about it, and fitting all these attacking players in and just playing in a different way to keep Liverpool unpredictable? He's evolved his team tactically over the years anyway at Liverpool, and I think this maybe that could be the next step.
Yeah, most definitely. Right, I'm going to jump into the chat box because there's quite a lot of chat going on around maybe what is next for Liverpool, and a lot of people now with the forward line sorted out, saying that Liverpool do need a world-class option in the midfield. And Martin's jumped in the chat box and said, what's the thoughts on the rumour that we won't be going for a midfielder until next season? Does that mean we're looking to side Jude Bellingham? Well, of course, Aurelien Tchouameni had been an option prior to him going to Real Madrid, Dave. But as we know with Liverpool, and the Echo reporting that there is long-standing interest in Jude Bellingham, Dortmund unlikely to sell this summer. But Liverpool so often choose the players they want, and if they're not available, they will wait for the right players, certainly if they are going to be transformational and really be a long-standing member of that side. What's your take on the midfield? Do you think a recruit is needed for definite this summer, or would you kind of accept waiting 12 months to get someone like a Bellingham?
Well, I think it's the area of the squad that you could most readily improve with this sort of first team ready player. I think that's obvious now, that the strength and depth you've got in all the other positions. I think central midfield is where you'd think someone could come in and really make an impact in the long term. But I think, my understanding as well is that Liverpool aren't going to sign a central midfielder this summer, and that, I think sometimes that can be said, and it can be maybe adopted in a negotiating position, but I don't believe that to be the case in this sort of situation, because I think, as you said, Liverpool are absolutely happy to wait for certain players if they believe they'll 100% improve the team. And I think maybe Jude Bellingham is among that sort of group of players where they think give him another year at Dortmund and then come in and he could really make a difference. But I think that's, if that is the approach and that is why they're going to wait another year to sign a central midfielder, I think it's a little bit of a risk, because you think of the competition they're going to have around Jude Bellingham. They're not going to be the only club in for him, that's for sure. It's going to be it's going to be a real fight for his signature. So, and also with clubs who probably be able to offer a lot more money. But I think if they are willing to wait, then they'll probably have a few options lined up who they think will be ready. And I think it's not just a case of, okay, we'll sign a midfielder in 2023 because Jude Bellingham is available. Then I think it's because certain elements of the squad will have sorted themselves out by then. For example, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, I would expect to probably leave this summer. They'll have a better idea of where Elliott and Curtis Jones are up to in their development. You get Jordan Henderson's another year older by that point. James Milner's only signed a 1-year contract and will probably leave after that. So I don't think it's necessarily that they're putting all their eggs in the Jude Bellingham basket. And if they are, that is a bit of a crazy idea for me. But I think it's more that they will see the development of the midfield over the next 12 months, and they will be ready at that point then to add a real first team ready midfielder.
Yeah, well, Anisha says, responding to Martin, that should maybe look to get a stopgap in, given kind of the injury-prone nature of the midfield, and concerned if Ox leaves, that would leave Liverpool light. And Ad also says there needs to be more options in the midfield. Sicario saying only two world-class midfield options in Fabinho and Thiago. So, Dave, I'm working my way to a question. Time to change to 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mentioned it earlier in the podcast. Really, is that Jurgen Klopp had great success with that, doing that at Borussia Dortmund, and with a more traditional out and out number 9. Maybe that's a real option for him this season, because if you think of the switch to 4-2-3-1 as well, you only need to name 2 orthodox central midfielders, and then you give yourself the opportunity to really mix things up with that 3 behind the 1. So not just your forward options that we talked about, like Diaz and Jota, Firmino, Salah, all playing behind Nunez, but also the opportunity to put Fabio Carvalho on one side, maybe Harvey Elliott, the more sort of playmaker types in those positions than out and out wingers. But that it gives you real options then, I think. So I think that's something we maybe will see in pre-season, because I think it solves that issue of the midfield depth if they do lose Oxlade-Chamberlain and if they do get a couple of injuries. But it also brings those other attacking options like Elliott and Carvalho into play.
Yeah, no, most definitely. With Carvalho arriving, you do wonder what that will mean for the rest of the midfield, whether in fact he'll be a midfield option, whether he will be a forward line option. We will have to wait and see. But that just about does us for today's edition of Transfer Daily. Remember, if you want to get in touch with us, you can email bloodred@reachplc.com for any feedback you have on any of the podcasts or streams we have, or if you have any questions that are long-standing that you want us to get to, do reach out to us and get in touch via that means. But from myself, Guy Clarke, and Dave Lynch, thanks for your time and your company this morning on the Liverpool Transfer Daily. It's bye for now.